More and more, we take seriously the observer. One takes more and more seriously oneself. One asks more and more insistently the question, who am I? And who am I becomes more and more the key to the whole darn business. In other words, one takes oneself more and more seriously as the sample which is available here and now of what the universe is really like. So what we're going to do together is something very difficult and yet very simple. And it is difficult because it is simple. And I'm not going to lecture now. What I'm going to do is to experiment with you, to invite you to make some discoveries along with me of what it is really like, in all simplicity, being yourself where you are, sitting on your chair at this moment, forgetting everything you've heard before. If I could invite you to imagine you've been parachuted into existence at this moment, you've just happened. Imagine you've just happened. You don't know whether you're a centipede or a worm or a star or a human being or whatever. And you're having a fresh look to see what it's like being you at this moment, in all simplicity. Or, if you like, you're suffering from severe amnesia. You forget everything you've ever heard before. You're forgetting everything that you have ever experienced, I mean. And you're having a fresh look at what it's like being yourself, sitting on this chair of yours just now. I'm going to tell you what it's like right here, being Douglas on this chair. And I'm going to talk in baby terms. I'm not going to talk in metaphysical or religious or spiritual or any complicated terms. I'm going to talk in terms that are so obviously, so transparently simple and baby-like, I hope. And my story is this: that I look around the room and I see human beings. I look all around the room, and this room is full of human beings. But one of them is different. Looking in all sincerity and naivety around this room, I look around this room and I see one of the people in this room is different. I'm not talking about thinking the difference, I'm talking about seeing the difference. And my first question is, which one? And in all sincerity, simplicity, I have to say the one in this chair is different. And now that's the first point. And I suggest that if you look in your chair, you will see the one in your chair is different. And I want to point out the simple difference that I find between you and myself. And the simple difference is that you have splendid kind of meatballs mounted on your shoulders, solid lumps. I don't mean to be impolite, but they are very small, and they're pretty small, and they're pretty tightly organized, and they've got two windows in them, and they've got a sort of herbage round them and so on, and there they are. And that is what you're all like, except right here and here, there's nothing of the kind whatever. And the one sitting in this chair at the moment is about 3/4 of a human being. And he stops around there. He fades out here and he fades out here, and there's nothing here whatever. And replacing this box, which you never hear anyway, are all your boxes. Are you. And in all simplicity, this is the way it is here. This is the way my universe comes. In other words, I'm talking now about what I might call a first-person universe, which is given to us in all naivety and simplicity. A first-person universe. That is the universe as it is to me, without thinking. And in my universe, which is actually given, there is no central lump. There's no central lump here. This is gone. It's absolutely gone. And I'm not looking at you through two eyes, and there's no brain here, and there's no box here, there is no beard here, there's absolutely empty of all that jazz. And I swear to you this is true, and you know I'm neither mad nor larking about. I'm perfectly sincere. You feel that. And I repeat, if anyone thinks I'm telling a lie, come and look. And you will lose Douglas's head on the way here. And if you don't believe what you see, bring your camera and bring your movie camera and approach from all directions, top, sides, front, and you will lose Douglas and his beard, etc. on the way, and you will come to a place where there is nothing. And I can, or very nearly nothing, let us say. Now, I can complete this story and say, okay, you're absolutely right, that the inside truth of this spot is this emptiness. Now, this is the way it is here. And I ask you to forget everything you know, to relax, to be quiet in yourself, to stop thinking, to pretend you just happened. Pretend you just happened. Have a fresh look in case you've been conned. And I suggest we've all been conned. To have a fresh look and examine that one spot in the world on which you are the sole authority. Now, I'm not the sole authority. I'm no authority on what's in there. See? Excuse me. I don't know what it's like there because I've never been there. And I don't know what it's like anywhere around in the universe. But there's one thing in the universe which I have inside information about, and always have had, and that's this thing right here. And it has always been empty. It has been this pure light, clear light of the void, this clarity, this brilliance, this nothingness, this void, which is not in a box. It's not a hole in a box, not an empty box. There's no box. There's nothing here whatever. And this void is full of you. I'm you, utterly you in your human form now, utterly without any difference whatever, not a speck here, not even distance to keep you away from. I am you utterly, because there's nothing here in the way. Now, this isn't because I'm a nice person, or because I love you, or because you're especially beautiful. This is the way it is. I can't help it. And this is foreseeing in all simplicity. And this is the way it is here. And I'm just asking you before we go on whether it is not the case with you, each one of you, in your first-person position, sitting on the seat of your chair now. If you think about this, you've had it. It is for simple seeing. It's not for feeling. It is for seeing. And it is for seeing that you are faceless. It is for seeing that you are headless. It is for seeing that there is no meatball at the center of your universe. No solid lump there, whatever. And I repeat that if you can see this, you are seeing the truth. I hope you're all having a good look and not thinking about it. Let me put it another way, just to try a number of ways. It helps if you would look at me, not because I'm going to hypnotize or anything, but it is necessary for this purpose that you should look at me. And I'm going to use Alan here as a help to me in this. And if you look at Alan and me, you will see that from your point of view there, we are indeed face to face. And there's a nose there, and there's a nose here, and there are eyes there, and eyes there, and there's a chin there, and there's a beard here. But there are differences, but roughly about this axis. This is a symmetrical situation from your point of view. It is a symmetrical situation. Alan and I are indeed face to face. And this is third person from your point of view. Now, I'm going to ask you, turn your attention to me now, not to Alan, just to me. And look at me and tell me in all sincerity and simplicity whether your looking at me is the same as this situation. Are we, you and I, face to face now? Well, my story is that we are face to no face. And that what's that side is nothing like what's this side. And that we can look at each other with a sort of two-way looking. and I can see what I'm looking out of at the same time as I can see what I'm looking at. I see what I'm looking out of at the same time as I see what I'm looking at. From your point of view, you see what you're looking out of, and you see what you're looking at in one foul swoop, in one looking. And you say that you can see that what's at that end is not like what's at this end. In other words, you can see what you're looking out of simultaneously with what you're looking at. And you see, if you're honest and not thinking about it and looking at my face, you will see you are looking at my face out of no face, out of nothing. Well, this is a pretty important thing, because if your universe has got a kind of meatball at the center of it, a solid lump here at the center of it, it's one kind of universe. If there's nothing here at all, you're out of your meatball, you're out of your box, and you're as wide as the world, because there's not even a plastic bag for you to be in. You are as big as the world. So that's a pretty important thing, number one. The second thing is that if you are mistaken about what is at the center of your world, if I'm mistaken and I put the meatball here instead of the clarity or the void, if I'm wrong about the very center and core of my own personal first-person universe, if I'm wrong about that, isn't the whole works going to be literally bunged up? Isn't my life going to be spoiled by literally a central mistake, an illusion, an absurdity, an untruth, a lie, which is surely going to ruin my whole life? To be wrong about this is to be wrong about the one thing, surely, that matters, the central truth. Well, I've invited you all, in all simplicity, to look at yourselves now and see what you're looking out of. Don't think, but just see. And I press on you again this point, that what you can see for yourself, you alone are able to say, and your authority there is final, because nobody can tell you what it's like right where you are except yourself. Not all the saints and sages and books can tell you what it's like right where you are, because you are the final authority and the sole authority on that one little blob in the universe. And if you say it's void, it is void. I don't know if you say it. If you see it's void, it really is void. Well, I hope you're really looking. And I know for a fact that quite a number of you see this clearly now. It's a wonderful thing for you. It's true. Very thankful for you. But now let me pass on to the genesis of this mistake that we've made, how it happened that we were conned into thinking a solid lump onto our shoulders when in fact there was no lump there. We have been conned by everyone around us into this. Small children don't see themselves this way. And let me just give you one or two instances of this. Small children are truthful. They're not playing games. They are frank about this. They are candid. They are truthful. And, for instance, we find a small boy that I know protesting in loud tones when he was ticked off for being a naughty boy that he was not a boy. And he didn't mean he was a little girl either. He looked at little boys and he saw they were kind of small and shrunk and two-eyed and had heads on them. I'm not a boy. And then, of course, his parents and teachers and so on said, well, now you must look at yourself through our eyes. They didn't say this, but what they meant was, you must see yourself as we see you from a distance. You must see your appearance to us. And he did this, and he went to his granny after a few months and said, Granny, I am a boy. I'm a boy. Well, this is the tragic con that we all have to go through. It is essential. There's a sense in which it is true. We have to see ourselves as others see us. But to do it at the expense of ourselves as we see ourselves, this is the great con, this is the tragedy. To sacrifice this first-hand childlike vision of ourselves as clarity, as light, as emptiness, to sacrifice this for the outside view and substitute the outside view of ourselves for this interior view, this is our tragedy. This is what literally bungs up our universe, literally, and bungs up our lives. And it bungs up our lives with a solid fiction, if you can imagine such a thing, or a fiction of solidity. A head, a skull, a face, two eyes, and all that stuff. All of which is visible out there as an appearance, but is not here as reality. It is fiction as reality, it is real as appearance. And these appearances are revealed to people who come up towards me, and they are lost when they arrive here. And the truth here is that this spot I occupy is empty. There are many ways of getting this fictional head on your shoulders, which just isn't there, but thinking you've got it on. And part of bringing up is to learn these ploys of pretending, of planting this head, this face, on a place where it in fact does not exist. And one of them is called the mirror game. And the mirror game is this. I look at myself as a little boy, I look at myself in the mirror. And before I'm indoctrinated and conned, I have a nice time with my little friend in the mirror. And I look round and I think he's a thin little boy. And there he is, nice little boy in the mirror. Or if I'm an animal, I'd probably fight this creature in the mirror who's threatening my territory. But I learn otherwise. What I do is, about the age of 2, 3 onwards, I look at that chap in the mirror and I'm taught to play this game. To put my hands through the mirror, as it were, and get hold of that face I see in the mirror and bring it forward and shake it free of the glass and keep on enlarging it because it's too small and turning it round and planting it on here and going forth into the world thinking I've got one like the other. And it's a lie. It's a lie. The face in the mirror is in the mirror out there, and that is the truth. If we would trust our mirrors, the whole thing would be revealed to us. Our mirrors are entirely trustworthy. If you want to know where your face is, look in the mirror. That's where you keep it. We are conned into thinking we have this solid lump here, that we are this solid lump here. And as the years go on, it gets more and more difficult to uncon ourselves, to see that the spot we occupy is in fact this clarity, this emptiness, and nothing here whatever. But most of us learn to put on faces, put on these heads and faces, and it is hell. It is hell. Now, I'm an authority on hellfire because I've endured some of it. And some of you also are probably authorities on hell too. And my story about hell is this. It is leaving my home here in the light, in my first personhood and clarity, and it is getting out there and seeing myself only as I imagine you see me. It is looking at Douglas from your position and being shamefaced, boxed up, small, limited, local, a little mortal thing, at risk, not okay, full of all sorts of blemishes, deficiencies, etc. Seeing myself thus, through your eyes, full of guilt and shame and smallness, this is hell. And it is a hell also of putting on acts and being unreal and insincere. Because once I get out, forsake my station of first personhood here, and see myself through your eyes alone, I put on acts. I'm not sincere, I'm not a real person. As a real person, I'm at home, here, enjoying who I am here, the clarity. As an unreal person, I'm forsaking my essence here, I'm forsaking my clarity here. And I'm out there enjoying or suffering the acts I'm putting on here in order to impress and please you. And it's horrible, and it's hell, and it's full of anxiety and misery. Let me put it again like this, which seems to me a vivid and true way of putting it. When I was 2, 3, 4, I could see, when I cared to, when I attended to it, I could see what it was like here. And I saw I wasn't in a box. I saw I had no head. I saw the difference between myself as first person and you as third person. I was at large. I was huge. I was not in a box, not even a plastic bag. That was the way it was. In this house of mine, which is no house, I am the only tenant. Nobody else is allowed in here. Nobody else can tell me what it's like here, because literally they're not in a position to tell me what it's like here, because they are there. You are there, you over there cannot tell me what it's like here. You pick up my appearance. I have inside information about this, which is absolutely final and valid. I am the final authority on this little bit of the universe. Well, at the age of 2, 3, 4, I listened to my elders. And they were so many. You see, they were big. They were big, and they were powerful, and they were numerous. And they were intelligent. And there were millions and millions of them. And I was only one, and I was a small boy. And do you know what I did? I let them there tell me what it's like here. Now, how crazy can you get? Do you know, it's just as though Alan here, I may call you Alan in this context, may I? Dr. Watts, Alan here, California, Alan. It's just as though Alan here had no confidence in the interior of this room, in what he saw, in his apprehension of the colors, the space, or anything. He had no confidence in what he saw in his own house. So he went out into the street there and asked a lot of passers-by what it was like in here, and they'd never been in here. It's like that, Alan. Isn't it like that? How stupid can we get? What goes wrong with our lives is everything if we are wrong about this simple thing. At the center of my universe is no thing whatever, and this means that I explode to include the lot. Therefore, I can say that the third person is in the universe, and the first person, well, the universe is in the first person. And that's the difference, and it's some difference. And when you get out of your meatball, you see that you are not distant from the stars. And this is celebrated by poets and mystics all over the world. For instance, Traherne says, "You never see the world aright till the sea itself floweth in your veins, till you are clothed with the heavens and crowned with the stars." And this is absolutely bang on, literally bang on. Now, in seeing who I am then, I see who you are. I don't only see who you are, I know who you are, and I am who you are in my essence. And this breaks down between each one of us here every last barrier. There is no speck of difference at this level. As human beings, we are delightfully different, and this is for enjoying. But as what it is like right where we are in our first personhood, there is not a speck of difference. And this is where we are utterly one. And this, believe me, is a universe for living in. It's the only one worth living in. It's the only true story, as I see it. I'm not advocating it because it makes sense philosophically, although it does happen to do that. I'm advocating it because in all simplicity it is presented to me as the way it is. This is how it comes. This is the way it is. And it is beautiful, and it is heaven. It is heaven.
My name is Richard Lang, and I'm talking to Douglas Hardy here this morning. Douglas, what is seeing who you really are? What's it about?
What's it about? Seeing who you really are.
Well, it's so simple, it's difficult to describe, isn't it? But perhaps one should say that normally one is looking at other things, one is looking at what one is looking at. But seeing who you really are is simply looking at what you're looking out of. It's channeling the direction of your attention round precisely 180 degrees and looking at what is nearest to all, what is central to one's life, what's the permanent ingredient in all that one is and does, namely what's here, what's right here, the distance of 0 inches from me. Normally I am intent on what's quite a long way off, a few inches off, if not feet off, miles off, etc. But there's one region that I've learned to ignore under social pressure, I suppose, and so on. Learn to pretend doesn't exist, or is unimportant, or is dangerous, and not to be looked at. And that's what's right here, what I'm looking out of. Again, that's what seeing is for me, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I would
Agree with that?
Yeah, sure. What is it you would say that you were looking out of? I see Douglas Harding over there. Is that what you're looking out of?
That's your problem. That's your problem. I don't see him here. At least at the moment, I can see quite a lot of stuff. But I wouldn't recognize it as Douglas Harding. I mean, it's trousers and shoes and a couple of hands sticking out here. But I wouldn't call that Douglas Harding. No, what I find here is space for that stuff, that body, those clothes I was talking about, and those hands. Space for Richard. Now, I have space for the recording machine and the window and the trees outside. Emptiness, yeah, space for it all. Room for it, capacity. Emptiness here, so that it may be filled with what is on offer. And what's on offer is very simple, very clear, very evident. And primarily at this time, my dear friend Richard.
So this capacity is an aware capacity.
Yes, certainly it is very, very. It's not just any old capacity, in a communal garden room for things to happen in. It's very alert to itself at this time as capacity.
So Douglas, how did you come to this?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know when I came to it. I mean, that story about having an experience in the Himalayas. Well, perhaps I did. Well, I did, but gosh, that was not coming to it for the first time, I'm sure. I'm sure I had previews and more than hints of it long before that. So I don't know the answer to that one, Richard. I mean, how do you come to the thing which you don't come to, which you are? You were saying, well, how did you come to be what you are, really? And that's a hard question. The answer is, I don't know how I came across myself. How do I know how I came across myself? That's kind of so built in, it's so central, and I can't say.
Douglas, you were telling me that at your center, you're just space for things. And yet I see from here that you're somebody. But how do those two stories fit together?
They seem to be totally incompatible. Yeah. And indeed they are in a sense, because one is the exact opposite of the other. In short, Richard, I'm not what I look like, and I guess you're not what you look like, and I guess nothing is what it looks like.
Right.
It's the difference between what one appears to be, or things appear to be, and what one is, or what things really are intrinsically. And there's a total difference. And my way of putting it is that, and it's a very well known way of putting it, isn't it? That distance lends enchantment. It lends more than enchantment, it lends everything. It lends all the world is unknown from appearance. I mean, everything is a nest of appearances.
So what I make of you depends on how far away from you.
That's exactly right. And you are now about 4 feet from me, and so you've got most of a man. I mean, you at least the top half of a man. You're there, or rather, in your sights, because you're the right distance away. But I promise you that what you're seeing there, the man you're seeing there, is there, no doubt, but it's certainly not here. And if you should doubt me, Richard, you are cordially invited to come here and see, check out whether I'm a liar or not, and come up with your apparatus of every kind. At the moment, you don't need any aids to vision, but as you came out to me, you would need various kinds of microscopes. First of all, optical and then electronic microscopes. And on the way up to me, you would lose me. And you would find here, I think, what I find, which is nothingness if you're looking in this direction towards me. But if you then turn around and looked out with me, then I think you would find that this nothingness is space for the sea. And this, you see, is really rather more helpful, I think, first of all, not to look at people, because this is kind of difficult country ourselves. We're not very good at, we're very bad at finding out what we are. We're very good at finding out what things are, aren't we? So it's more helpful, I think, to tackle this question of appearance and reality, this sort of contradiction between appearance and reality, as regards inanimate objects. Well, take that machine that's recording this talk. Now I see it, a rather fine bit of apparatus there, very, very complex indeed. And if I go away from it, I'm sure it'll get smaller and smaller. It will become less and less complex in my experience, and will reduce to a dot and then vanish. And to find it again, I have to approach it. On the other hand, if I go up to it, I get a bit of the mechanism. I get one of those loudspeakers, and the rest has fallen away. And go further, I get a bit of metal. And go further, and no doubt that metal will, under the microscope, resolve into fibers, and then molecules, and even atoms, so on. And I'm still not there. The point of contact, right where the thing is, the point of contact, I shall find nothing. And it doesn't matter what I go up to, I lose. That is my experience, and it seems to me to be the delivery of science. Science is that. I don't think this can be denied. That distance is the making of the world, isn't it? And now, when I'm talking to you, I have a certain sense, besides being no thing here whatever, that here is, for you, I'd say, there is a chap called Douglas. And Douglas is certainly around talking to Richard. Vis-a-vis Richard, why, it's Douglas that's operating. Now, when it comes to reading the newspaper or listening to the news, vis-a-vis France or Germany or Soviet Russia, one has the feel of identifying with one's country. In the right circumstances or the wrong circumstances, I might be induced to die for my country so real, is it for me, so much me. It's more me in some circumstances than Douglas is me, since I will sacrifice Douglas perhaps for my country or my church or my family, that I will feel more identified with one of those great hours than I do with Douglas. And similarly, I'm elastic downwards as well as upwards, in the sense that I may and do from time to time feel pretty identified with a part of one's body. We talk about people as being greedy guts or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, we do identify with bits and pieces of ourselves, quite obviously. Of course, well, if some part of me is in great pain, I'm extremely identified with that part of me.
So you move up and down.
Up and down. So one is very mobile in the universe.
Yes.
And one takes on as much of the universe, or as little of the universe, as the occasion requires. And there are times, in fact, I would say this has become in a way normal, that one is at the center, absolutely nothing whatever.
Yes.
Except space for the world to happen in. That's what I am at the nearest range. And along with that strange paradoxically goes this other thing, which is just as basic, just as important, and just as terminal, really, which is because I am no things, but I am space for everything. Therefore, in the ultimate, I am no thing and all things. Halfway, I'm Douglas. The ultimate, I am no thing. Here, and this no thing here, is capacity for, receptive of, identical with all things. Because I see, Richard, that the space here is at this moment, I mean, it's all separate from, distinguishable from its contents. It is its content.
How does the mirror fit into this scheme of things?
Well, the mirror is a wonderful thing. And because it's a superb thing, it's a joke, really. The very funny thing about the mirror, and a very beautiful thing, I think, is that it's, first of all, the instrument of my delusion, and secondly, the instrument of my enlightenment, my coming to my senses again. But what do we do? And what is this thing we learn? We learn, and always have to learn, and it's a fantastically, it's a leap. It's an incredible thing that no animal learns. It's what makes us human, and it is a sort of hallucination, but certainly extremely imaginative. What we do is to look in the mirror, find a person in the mirror, a human being in the mirror, and to say, that's me. And not only do we say that's me, we say that's me here. Not me there, but me here.
Yeah.
And that is an incredibly, tricky one. It's a human invention of incredible ingenuity and more than perversion, really. I mean, a perversion with truth. It's playing tricks with what is given of great complexity. First of all, I mean, there is the face in the mirror. Over there, quite small, facing, shall I say, the wrong way. So it's the wrong size for a face. It's the wrong way round for a face. And it's in the wrong place for a face. I mean, three things. It's the wrong size, it's the wrong place, and it's, what's the third one?
Wrong way around.
Wrong way around. Well, we have three things all wrong with it. So what you do is to, in imagination, you can't do this. You correct all three. You, in imagination, go out and turn it round, and you keep enlarging it as you bring it on. You bring it forward towards you, and you keep enlarging it, putting it out, stretching it, and you bring it on, and you plonk it on your shoulders, screw it on your shoulders, stick it on your shoulders, and go out in the world thinking you've done it. You're presenting this thing to the world here, even when there's no mirror to tell you about it.
Yes.
You go around thinking you've done it. I mean, it's incredible, incredible bit of nonsense that we humans build our lives on. This is the very foundation of our lives.
It's the way of being human, isn't it?
It's a way of being human. And I know it's a great thing to be human. I mean, let's relax and enjoy it. I mean, we're indispensable. But it's a funny thing, you see, because not only does it get us into being human, it gets us into every sort of trouble, Richard. Now, I'd say we're having become human by playing tricks. Let's be really human by stopping the tricks. And being human the way we are human and where we're human, which is out there, not here. It's not a case of denying one's humanness, it's a case of placing one's humanness. And I think that we become really human-hearted, really human, when we're human the way we are human and where we're human and not where we are told we're human, which is right here. Because here I'm not human at all. Here I'm not a man.
Right.
I'm not human, not here. Thank God. Thank God. So now it seems to me that a right and proper, complete human being is someone who knows where to keep that stuff.
So when you look in the mirror, you see where your face is. It's over there in the mirror, not here on your shoulders.
That's right. I look at the mirror and say, well, first of all, I looked in the mirror and that was nothing to do with me. The second stage is when I looked at the mirror and said, that's a baby. It's a real baby, and I said, baby, you see. A girl, a boy, baby then. Third stage is when I said that baby, that child is me. And that's where most of us stick and spend our lives. We die under that impression.
Yes.
We live and die under that impression. Fourth stage is to look in the mirror and say, thank God I'm not like that here. So I look now in the mirror and see what I'm not like here. I look in the mirror and see what other people are getting. And I look here to see what I'm getting. And I see the difference is absolutely total. Yes, this whole business, Richard, is compounded by the notion that one is a body and one's in a body. And that, once we look into it, once I look into it, I don't know what I'm talking about when I say I'm in my body. I just don't know what I'm talking about. It seems to me quite nonsense talk. In a body. Nobody'd like to be like that. In a body. I look at these hands. Let's look at our hands. If I'm in a body, I'm in those hands, aren't I? I'm not in just central part, my trunk of my body. I'm in the lot.
Yeah.
What if I'm in those hands? What sense am I in them? I mean, what information do I have about what's inside there? Well, I mean, when you're in the thing, you have some inside information, don't you? If you're in a house, you have inside information of the house.
What about the feeling of my hand, Douglas? Physical sensation.
All right, well, let's feel our hands now. Yes. Well, does that mean I'm inside? I mean, where's certainly there are feelings, and the feelings yes, the feelings are there, like the pinkness is there, and the lines are there. Well, so what? I'm not stuck in there.
No, I don't feel bounded by it.
Well, look, it's such a tiny part of my world. I mean, I've got my hand here, but then back of that is Richard and the wall and then trees and the sky and all that. I mean, I'm much bigger than all this stuff. I mean, why? I'm sure when we were very little, we were huge, you know. We weren't shut up in any kind of little box. But growing up is getting imprisoned in a box. And it's the biggest nonsense and lie you could ever imagine, isn't it?
Douglas, seeing that one doesn't have a head here presents a different, if I could say, model of relationship from the one that we're used to, which is a face-to-face model. That's the way we've been brought up to see ourselves in relationship with other people. What difference do you think it makes to see that you don't have a head here where you are in terms of personal relationships?
Well, I think it makes total difference, don't you? In fact, it calls in question the very word relationship. If I see, and I do see, that here am I gone, so to speak, that Douglas no longer exists in this place, what relationship can this non-existent have with that existent out there? I mean, can no thing, aware of itself as no thing, how can it be related to things? It seems to me for there to be a relationship, it has to be between things of the same order. If I am something here, if I have a face here, if I'm a solid lump here, and I am that thing, and you over there are some other thing, I'm absolutely and entirely and clearly designed to shut you out. It's like a rejection of Richard, not because I could have anything against you, but I'm built for rejecting you, really. I'm built for pushing you away. I'm not open to you by nature. I'm closed to you by nature. Well, that's one kind of setup, isn't it? And it's the kind of setup that I observe all over the world. Symmetrical setup. I see people confronting one another
Face to face.
face to face. I see symmetry all over the place. And this is our paradigm pattern of personal relationships, face to face. Who ever heard of anything different? Well, here it's totally different from that. And I see that I'm built to let you in. I'm built, as it were, for loving. I say as it were because it doesn't involve necessarily a sentiment, a strong feeling of any kind. But it does, if I attend to this, I consciously let you in because I've no option. I'm open to you. And I become you in your richness. I mean, I'm now full of Richard. I'm invaded by Richard. I am so much Richard at this moment, which I guess you're not. I'm giving Richard his Richardness. I'm giving him his all his status, qualities, character, personality, as Richard as a human being, and that's my business to look after that manifestation here, which I call Richard. And I'm completely busted wide open for that. And less sure in a certain manner, I would guess that you are doing the same thing for Douglas. And this is a very beautiful, very strange, very intimate business, isn't it? This trading of faces, trading of appearances.
Yes.
I am here no thing for Richard, and Richard there is no thing for Douglas. And we're doing this for each other. We're giving each other human status, really. A very, very precious and wonderful thing to do. It's something you can't do for yourself. I have to do it for you to give you human status in this time, and vice versa. And what we have done is to model our idea of what personal relationships are on looking at other people and ignoring our own situation. We've taken objects as clue to the subject. And there are no clues to the subject. The subject and object are quite different.
Whereas up till this point, being with someone else might have given one a face. Now one can be with other people and let them take your face
Take it off you.
It can be a great reminder of seeing who you are.
Yes, yes. And so, Richard, this makes a total difference to the way we get on with people. I know that it doesn't immediately seem to have any startling effects, but in the long run, I'm absolutely sure it transforms the way we do get on with people. I think not too quickly, because we have to get out of the old habits, don't we? But it really takes the fear out of the eyes over there of the other person. It takes my fear off those eyes from me, but nothing to be inspected here. I feel free to look into that person's eyes in a way I never was before. Where do I find the subjectivity of Richard at this time? Because I don't deny subjectivity. I don't deny a consciousness. Where do I find it? Well, I find it this side of your face, not your side of that face, but my side here, if I find it right here. Because the consciousness I perceive here, looking back at this place I occupy, this awareness, this space, this clarity, this aware nothingness that I am here, I perceive to be infinite in extent, crystal clear in its awareness of itself, and altogether fitted to be the consciousness of all beings in the world. Why? Because it has no Douglas label on it. It has no special labels at all. Neither Richard nor Douglas or anyone can claim this as private property. The awareness I find here is big enough, aware enough, and impersonal enough to do for Richard and me and all the world beside. I find consciousness only here. And I take that very seriously. I mean, could travel all over the universe, peering into everything and inspecting everything. I won't get it. I won't ever discover anything which has a smell, a hint of this awareness, this sense of being oneself. The I am. I will never find it any place in the whole universe except right here. And of course, this right here, this point where I find it. When I look here at this point, which I'm pointing at now,
Yes.
I find it explodes to be of infinite extent. So it's not something which is a private little possession here at all. It's something which explodes to take in the whole world. It seems to be, really, in a way, to be wider than the wide world.
It's not in a particular place, because
It's all over the place. Yes. I mean, you know, the view out into my world is so puny, really, compared with the view back in this direction, which is of infinite extent, clarity. But, of course, there's another thing I must add here. We don't say, I can't find anywhere separating them. I can distinguish them totally, and I need to distinguish them totally. And when they're distinguished totally, they come together totally. If they're anything like, if the view in is anything like the view out, then they never come together. But if the contrast is total, in other words, one is the capacity for the other, the contrast is total, the unity is total. I see this to be the case. In other words, the space I have is its filling. And when I look out at Richard, just look out at Richard, well, I'm missing half the story. When I say Richard plus Richard in the world, I'm only getting half the story because I'm leaving out this half, the half in there that lies in this direction. But if I look in this direction, why, I'm getting the clarity, and I'm also getting Richard filling it. Yeah. So it seems to me that my whole business in life is to look here, because looking here involves there, whereas looking there doesn't necessarily involve here. Now, if I do that, coming back to the original question, what does it do for personal relationships? When I look here in my so-called relationships with other people, it's not that I'm related to them at all. As I say, I have the experience of being them. There are three possibilities here, I suppose. One is that I'm what I took myself to be, what I've told I was, what society brings me up to claim to be, namely a human being just like the ones I see around. Kind of solid, perishable object. That's number one. Number two is just space. I mean, just emptiness for other human beings, just sheer emptiness. That's all there is to it. But there's a third possibility, and that is vastly different from both of them, I think. And it's true that about what I find here, that no words will encompass it, no words will describe it. It has no characteristics. It receives all characteristics, but none of its own. And it's free of all characteristics. And paradoxically, this gives it just incredible value. You know, there's a saying in the Upanishads, it recurs in various scriptures, different one way or another, that we get happiness and satisfaction and peace only from what is open-ended, unlimited. And from that, we get satisfaction. And so the third one I'm talking about is the no thing, which really is no thing. I mean, really is indescribable, but I am it. And therefore, it's the one thing I really know without being able to describe. It's something that just baffles me to put a word to. But it is the one thing I really do know from experience. And what am I? It is no thing, aware of itself as no thing. But this being totally mysterious, self-originating, incredible, ungraspable, unknowable, thereby becomes mysteriously what I can put my money on, my infinite resource, something so precious. I just can't find any words to describe it. Can you help me here?
Well, I'm just wondering, what do you think there is to convince one or convince others that this is really it? This is really coming to the source. It doesn't look or feel like anything, does it?
Well, I suppose what gives me the entree, in a way, more than anything else, to this sense of my identity, this identity which is incredibly nothing and incredibly valuable. What gives me the entree to it is its self-origination. It's the abyss from which I am proceeds. It's more fundamental, infinitely more fundamental than the sense of I am. It's like a sense I am not, first. But it's the fountain. It's the, or it's not the fountain, it's where the fountain comes from. It's the source of the fountain of I amness, which is myself coming into being. It's below being. It's where being comes from for no reason. It is the battlement, really. It is the vertigo. It's the giddiness, really, Godhead.
Yeah.
Investigating its own origins, which are unknowable. And strangely, this ignorance, profoundest kind of knowledge somehow.
Clearly, it's not Douglas seeing this, is it?
No, I mean, I can't find anything remaining of that guy who's over there. It's as though one has levels. The bottom level of all is the unspeakable no thing, the unthinkable origin, which we could call I am not, from which I am proceeds. And then from the I am, that level, you get the I am Douglas, I am Richard, and these are various levels of manifestation. But I feel that my refuge, my resource, my joy, my blessing comes from what is below existence, below being, below thought, below feeling, from which it all comes. In a way, the potentiality of everything is more precious than the actuality, because it is so, I don't know, so deep, so resourceful, so much you can rest in the potentiality. The actuality is always flying off in beautiful creativity, isn't it? So the fountain is never. I mean, the point about a fountain is always in motion.
That nothingness is so endlessly astonishing, isn't it? It can never be grasped or handled or understood or there. And yet it's the source of such awe.
Yes. And the beautiful thing is, it's so mysterious, but just this act, the simple act of turning around 180 degrees puts us in immediate touch with it.
So this seeing is not a shallow thing. I mean, it's the most simple thing, but it's looking to the very depth.
Yes, it really is. Infinite depths. I mean, looking out into the world, one looks out into a cul-de-sac. One looks out into some terminus there, where there's the sky and the trees all Richard, all that. There's an end to it there. But looking in this other way, 180 degrees, the vista goes on and on forever into depths on depths of unknowable mystery. This is a most extraordinary joy, the joy of how can one express this wonder? How can one do it justice, Richard? It baffles one to describe it, doesn't it?
You totally.
But just turn around and you're in touch with it once.
Does it mature? Does this sense of one's identity deepen?
In my own experience, I think my first view of this is not different from my last view of it. Once you introduce the possibility of levels and degrees here, I'm back in trouble again, very deep. But that's not the point. The point is that I can find nothing here to change at all. I find no difference, no development. But when it comes to the expression of this in my life and its connection with all the downstream stuff of my life, why then it's capable of ongoing change forever and ever, as far as I can make out. The experience of oneself as infinite capacity, infinitely clear, infinitely deep, and aware. One's experience of that is the same all through. Timeless, changeless, ineffable, indescribable, simplicity.
Does it affect your sense of what you want, your personal will, your desires? Where does surrender come in? Do you have any personal will?
Well, I find here perhaps rather surprise in a way that Douglas's personal will, or at any rate his strong preferences, are very much around. And I'd much prefer to be healthy, or if I'm not healthy, I get better from what I'm suffering from. I much prefer even a nice day to miserable cold weather. I prefer all sorts of beautiful things to ugly things around. I prefer that my friends are happy and things are going well with them, and infinitely prefer that to the reverse. So in that sense, one has an enormous array of strong preferences, and I don't find much change there. But at the same time, there's another side to the whole thing, and that is that constantly the seeing of who I am here is surrender, because it's not only surrendering all one's hopes and will and desires, it's surrendering the idea of someone here who is having those. I mean, it's not a case only for surrendering personal will, but surrendering the person who has the will. So it seems to me that implicitly and in principle, this in-looking, this in-seeing that we're talking about is surrender already. Already it is total surrender, because it doesn't leave a speck of anything here. It doesn't even leave a person to exercise will here. But I would say it's as though Douglas out there is doing his willing thing. It seems that that's part of his, condition of being Douglas. And I think to pack up all that sort of thing would be to pack up altogether. He wouldn't be around doing his thing and being a human being, which I take him to be out there. He seems to be carrying on normally. If he didn't have a whole host of preferences, strong preferences too, that seems to me what makes him Douglas. And without to pretend that those are weakened is simply to say that you're getting tired of life. I mean, it's not being tired, it isn't being virtuous. No, I think that to have strong preferences for this and that and the other is perfectly consistent with surrender too. And what is the surrender then? It is staying here at the center, and from the center, surveying all that's going on there, including these preferences, and carrying on merrily there, seeing them from this position, surveying them, exercising, taking responsibility for them, from this joy or this satisfaction or this strong sense of the mystery, one's identity here as the origin, for whom nothing can go wrong, for whom all is well. So, in being who I am here, I am surrendered to whatever happens because it is basically my will. And that is perfectly consistent with noticing, as long as Douglas is around, he's got a whole repertoire of stuff that he would like to see happen.
We're so deeply conditioned to be somebody, aren't we? Right from the beginning of our lives. How do we get to deep surrender?
I don't think we can get to it by contrivance or by training ourselves, really. I think it's mysterious. I'm inclined to take refuge in a word which is really cop-out in the sense, grace. It explains nothing. But looking back on my life, why is it that this has been my life? Why should I have elected to go for this thing rather than to become a successful architect or, I don't know, whatever else I might have tried to do? And why? How did I do that? I think it happened to me in spite of me. It happened in spite of all my resistances to it. And I don't know. It's one of those questions I cannot answer. I think that I tried very hard to avoid this, and I got pushed into it. I suppose really having a very tough time when I tried anything else. I mean, I pushed into this, I suppose you would say, by the unsatisfactoriness of the alternatives.
Do you think that seeing this and carrying on seeking this, as it were, helps you as a person, sorts out some of your problems, hang-ups?
Well, absolutely no question about that. I mean, what it amounts to is saying, do I think that living from the truth is more satisfactory than living from fiction? Of course it is.
Douglas, we were talking about practice and discipline. Do you think a discipline of some sort is necessary and helpful?
Sort of meditation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's absolutely indispensable, Richard, surely. It's rather paradoxical. But there's nothing to be done because one is okay, the situation is absolutely all right. But one is who one is. Nothing can stop that, nothing can prevent that. And what one is as a human being, well, that it has to be, that's got its place and looked at from its origin, it's perfectly in order. So what then is to be done? Where does the discipline come in? And a lot of Zen masters, you rub that in, you know, what you trying to do. Your trouble is that you think there's some trouble. And if you would see that everything as it is all right, and relax into that, all will be achieved. In fact, the thing to be achieved is the idea that there's nothing to be achieved. That is the real achievement. The easiest thing in the world is to see into one's true nature. However, it is also the most difficult thing in the world, almost. That's not quite true. It's certainly a very difficult thing to maintain this inward look at all. At first, with most people, it's something that is only hard to keep up, but impossible to keep up. It's very, very intermittent. One's always being diverted from it. So at best, it is enormously interrupted. At worst, it's something you do just a few times in your life, perhaps. In one sense, and what's wrong with that? Since looking into who one is looking into the timeless realm. And there are indeed no gaps between the lookings in, no gaps at all time. Then what's the trouble? Does one need to maintain in time that which is out of time? Of course not. But if we're looking at the thing from the point of view of the world of time, and that's where we function in the world of time, don't we? We function from the timeless into the world of time. If we're looking to that functioning in time, why? That's where the practice is absolutely essential. Otherwise, nothing really happens. So, in order that this timeless, the seeing into the timeless shall bear fruit in time, and then a great deal of work has to be done. I use work in inverted commas. Now, what is the work? The work is not an achievement. The work is not doing something afresh. It is the observation that there is really no work to do and all is well. And what is it? Then what is this work? This work is the turning round of the area of one's attention, as often as this may be. And that is the practice.
That leads me on to another issue, is the maintaining of this.
Well, that's in a way what we're doing.
Yeah.
This practice is the maintenance of this inner looking. And how does one do this? One practices this by doing it, by turning the arrow one step around, as I say, in all the circumstances of life, increasingly, so that in a way one doesn't need to do it any longer, because in a way it's going on all the time, and one is in touch all the time, sometimes very consciously and vividly aware of where one's coming from, aware of the nothingness here, the true nature. Sometimes very vividly, and sometimes, more often perhaps, in a subdued way. But one is aware of it. One is not out to lunch. One isn't out there in negligence of what is here. There is a kind of sense of, here am I gone. It's a funny way to put it.
Yeah.
There's a sense of I'm here and I'm not here. Here am I, absent or present as awareness of myself, as having no characteristics, capacity for the world. The practice is ceasing to overlook the looker, or the hearer, one who is here.
Is there a sense in which you ever have to make an effort to pay attention to that at this point?
There is, in a way. I think effort is not the right word, really, but I can't give a better one. I think we have to go on making an effort until we see that effort is quite pointless, really, in a way. It's not an effortful thing at all, is it? It's more like a relaxation. It's a relaxation back into what is forever established. And an effort is to produce something that's not established. And relaxation is sinking back into what is already present. How can we be effortful about something that's already doing very well? Thank you very much.
Are there certain things or situations that for you are promoted of seeing, help you to see, remind you of seeing?
Oh, very much so. Although there are situations where the seeing into one's true nature, this reverse look, this in-seeing, is very vivid. And there are other occasions when it is present, all right, but not in a very sharp way, which is perfectly okay. It doesn't have to be brilliantly on show. Ramana, as you know, pointed out that it's not in its nature to be always sharp and brilliant, very, very prominent. It's more in its nature to be like a background, one side. Occasions which for me I have to produce the sharp sense, seeing the space here. For instance, the situation we're in now. I mean, there's Richard and his Richard's face there, and here's the absence of mine here. And I think one has built up over the years a very strong habit of being face to no face. I think one needed to do that in order to get out of the nonsense habit previously of being face to face, which is never true. So that is a situation, having a person in front of me, anyone, a face there, whether I know it or not, and that is extremely helpful. What other occasions do we feel especially helpful? I think when you see something strikingly beautiful, like flowers, or just anything that strikes you as lovely, like beautiful music.
What about difficult situations and problems? Do those help or hinder?
Well, you were thinking of what kind?
I wasn't thinking of anything in specific. Maybe personal relationship problems, work problems, health problems.
All the troubles of life.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be much good if it didn't have a relevance to these things. I think it has immense relevance. But I think, first of all, it doesn't dispose of them. It doesn't interview them. But nevertheless, something very profound, don't you think, is going on. And it is that the problem is being looked at just the way your face is being looked at this moment. It's been looked at from no face, and the problem is being looked at from no problem. And one has a sense, even perhaps rather cloudy, not very sharp and clear, one has a sense of being space for the problem rather than the problem. And what is the problem? Well, space for the problem, although in a sense it's united, the space is what makes the difference. This is the problem seen from the no problem. I suppose in very simple, practical terms, one realizes that that problem is absolutely okay to be problematic at this time. What I can do is to be the source of the problem and the source of the whole world, really. And this is to not want to change it, really, but to accept it and see that it's okay. And it is a hard thing, isn't it? I mean, you know, something pretty nasty happens in one's life. I want to say very ill. One very dear friend is having an awful time, or because what circumstances have taken them really nosedive. Well, what can one do? Certain level in which one must do something. I mean, you couldn't take action. But that action is just as conditioned as the problem. That action will occur anyway, won't it? I mean, these hands get up to something, these feet will go somewhere, this voice will continue to sound. All that stuff is all conditioned stuff. My business is not really to fuss about that. My business is to be where it's all coming from.
Being where it's all coming from is not a purely passive place or state, is it?
No, I don't think it is. No.
Because you're a very active person. From this nothingness, it's creative. I'm just thinking that it could sound like it just means sitting back and doing nothing.
Yeah, fatalist.
Yeah.
Saying I'm okay here and I've no control over what happens out there, and I'm just going to sit at home, idle and uncaring, really, resigned to what's going on. It's not like that at all. In a sense, it's extremely active. I mean, after all, who am I? Who are you? Who is one? One is the action itself. I mean, one is this power, which is that's what's one's true nature. This void here, this emptiness here, is the father and mother of everything. I think my task is not to let all that energy, that power, that creativity, let it flow as it will in a way, and recognize it, enjoy it. But I feel my pleasure at my job is to not kind of monitor that, not kind of try to change it, get involved in it in a way, but to stay with where it's coming from. Really, stay with the abyss, the unknowable, potentiality, not the actuality so much, the potentiality. Then the actuality, one is that too, that the emphasis of identification for me, I think, is on the source. Stay with the source. Stay with the centre and the periphery will be okay. Go for the periphery and in negligence of the centre, and one is literally in trouble. Only make for the centre. Right where one is, stay there and all is well. It's right here, and I look at the centre point, and of course it expands infinitely in all directions. The centre explodes, but it's just the centre one makes for.
What do you think the individual psychological and social effects of this scene are?
Gosh, they would differ so much person to person. We all have our special handicaps, crosses, and limitations, and that. What is the effect going to be living this scene life on those handicaps and so forth? What's it going to be? I think it's quite unpredictable, isn't it? I'm not, this business of fruit is a hard one, isn't it? It's a very hard one. But nevertheless, there are fruits. One must admit that there are fruits. And if we go for them, we're in trouble. It's a cliche to say it, but it really is true. You know, if you want good fruit, you don't fuss about fruit. You feed the roots. You feed the roots of the tree, make sure they're healthy and well. And the fruits will come. We don't water the fruit, you water the ground. And it seems to me, look after the ground, the fruit will come. And I think the point about it is that the fruits are in time, and the roots are timeless, eternal. No thickness, dark, the abyss, that's the root. And the fruits are in time, and they're always changing, and they're ripening, and unpredictable. We don't know. Time will tell. But all the same, having said that, Richard, by seeing who one is, it seems to me that fundamentally the hang-ups of our life are taken care of. I mean, you can list what come, the agony, the nonsense, the handicaps, the troubles that arise from living a lie, from the illusion that one is a thing, a small, limited, temporary, opaque thing here. I get shrunk from being space for everything, being no thing, space for everything. I get shrunk into being this little thing here. Now, what is the fruit of that shrinkage? The fruit of that shrinkage is all sorts of trouble. I'm angry. I resent the society which cruelly cut me down to size. I'm frightened because things are frightened. I mean, if I'm a thing, I'm terribly vulnerable from the activity of other things, the hostility, abrasion, other things, aren't I? I'm terrified, really. I'm envious of possessions and achievements of others. I could be greedy to get more and more of the world, to establish again my ownership of the world if I can. Of course, it's a hopeless task. All I do is get more burdens in the way of possession. And so this illusion that I am what I look like, which we began with right at the beginning of this talk we've been having, this illusion that I am a thing in the world here, I am what I look like, this illusion is productive of all our troubles, really. And it's living from a lie that gets me into this terrible trouble. Greed, hate, delusion, with all their offspring. fear, and so forth. All of those things can be, the origin can be traced to this illusion, this lie that I've been living for, that I'm a thing here. Now, when I start living from the no thing here, and I don't really start living from that, I mean, it stands to reason. It's obvious that there's going to be insofar as I've succeeded in living from the truth instead of lying, the effects of it must be there. For the reasons I've stated. No longer am I greedy. If the world is mine, what's the point of getting little bits and pieces round me to prove that the world is mine? I do nothing by that. I just add to my troubles by collecting a lot of junk around me. I don't need to be greedy. If I see that here is the origin of the world and this is indestructible, eternal, then where's the place for fear? Where's the place for envy? The fruits are there. They may be invisible to oneself. They're probably more visible to other people than oneself. And the fruits, I would say, are unique in every case, unpredictable. And they're not really one's business to fuss about the fruits. I don't really think one has fruits. It's who one is. One doesn't have fruits. The only fruit I have, as to who I really am, is this darn great fruit of the whole universe. That's a fruit and a half, isn't it? That one is. And that's the fruit. To talk about little fruits here and there is to confuse what I am. And what am I? Am I little Douglas bearing a lot of silly old fruits? No. I am the origin of the whole lot. That's my fruit. Doesn't do me. I'm a fruit merchant. My father was a fruit merchant. So am I.
Douglas, how has seeing affected your relationship with dying and death?
We, all of us, suffer from many fears. And I think that the psychologists are right, probably, when they say that all these fears stem from one basic fear, which is the fear of death. And if you can put paid to the fear of death, you really cut fear at its very root. And I think the sensible thing to do is go where death can't. And there's an actual place where death cannot penetrate. Because there's nothing to die there. I mean, here, below the quark, really, you come down from the galaxies, the whole hierarchy down through organisms and cells and molecules and atoms and particles and so on, to where there is just zero here. Zero, which I experience. That place is inaccessible to death. Death can't destroy anything there because there isn't anything to destroy there. It's clean of things to destroy. So I think keep coming back to the place where death isn't. And you are always there. This is your home ground. Everything, Richard, dies, doesn't it? Even galaxies have a shelf life, let alone stars, solar systems, planets, people. Everything dies. Everything has a shelf life. Everything perishes. If you don't want to perish, go where there isn't anything to perish. And then you find that you are there already. Keep going back to your source. Get used to that. But if we don't practice it, if we don't practice it while we can, when we're on our deathbed, if we haven't done our homework, that's not so good. I say do our homework. In other words, die before you die, and then you won't.
Right now, you can look in and see who you really are and look out.
Which is death, which is a kind of death, and resurrection. So, I mean, the great thing is the cure of death is homeopathic. Die before you die, and then you won't. Which is what the great mystic said anyway. Well, they didn't say it in those terms.
But right now, looking out, you see your body and you see...
I see something of my body. I see a part up to here, yes.
And looking in, you see who you really are.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, I've always been here. This is home ground. This is what I'm looking out of. This is where I am. Always have been. I was never anywhere else but here, in the deathless.
And when that body dies, what will you be looking out at?
I mean, this body's dying anyway, all the time. This hand is not the same hand. The material of this hand is different from what it was 10 years ago. Extremely different from what it was 50 years ago. It's always changing. These things are always changing. And they will go on changing. But this cannot change because it is the one and the same.
So your body, when it dies, it might change into another body?
Not might. Oh, it will. I mean, it is always changing into other bodies, yes. I mean, this is a realm of change all the time. And I think exactly what the doctor ordered, what I want. I don't want to be fixed in some, solid, unchanging thing. It's a union of the changeless and the changing, which is exactly what really one wants. One wants adventure and security, same time. Here's the security, here's the adventure. I need both. I need the unknown, the adventure, the excitement of, seeing what's going to happen. But I need the security of this change. It is changeless. Here is the security, the unchanging. We need both. And have both, and are both.
Seeing this is one thing. Is it also important to trust this?
I say it's supremely important. Seeing it without trusting it is no good, really. I mean, it really is, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it really is the practical business of shifting trust from little old Douglas. We put our faith in little old Douglas or little old Richard or whoever, and this is fatal. I really am absolutely deeply convinced that Douglas is designed to let me down. Relying on Douglas is a disaster, really. Sooner or later, it just is nonsense and a disaster. And what is done consciously from my center, by who I really am, by what I really am, I don't say it's perfect because it's out in the world and it's imperfect, but it's done incredibly better than little old Douglas. The know-how of who one is at center is incredible, incredibly great compared with the imagined, fictitious know-how of that little one-year-old mirror. So the whole business, practical business of life is shifting trust from what you look like to what you are, from what you've been advertised to be to what you really, really, really are. In other words, it's surrender from what you look like to what you are. The know-how at our center is fabulous. If you want to do anything well, I don't care what it is, so long as it's halfway legal, perhaps I should add, whatever you want to do, if you want to do it better, you do it from the source. And if you want to do it badly, you do it from the periphery. And it seems to me that anything is done superbly well. I think snooker, dancing, tennis, anything you do which is done with superb grace and expertise and flair, anything that's extremely well done is done, I would say, from the source.